Councilmember Juan, Councilmember Dozier, and to my right is Councilmember Faroki. Make a motion to approve the agenda. Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote. Dang, that's okay.
Can we repeat the seconder, please?
Dozier was the second.
Councilmember Dozier.
It's too bright.
They doing it.
Vote is open. Vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The agenda has been adopted.
Thank you. Motion to approve the minutes. Motion has been made and second. Open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The minutes have been approved.
Thank you. That takes us to our public comment. I have 4 people that have signed up. Please keep all your comments directed to the committee and be respectful. You'll have your 3 minutes. First, we have Mr. Derek Green.
Hi, good morning. I'm Derek Green. I'm with the Dixie Hills community. Have several issues. The first being MARTA. There's a proposal to eliminate bus route 867 that runs directly through our community. Over the last 4 years, we've added about 250 senior housing. We have a proposal for another 300 multi-generational housing developments. And so it's very important that we keep this route active and alive. And as a matter of fact, I would even submit that the route is maybe as far as time-wise, it's not best place for the community currently. We also have a high school, the Cape Atlanta Collegiate in the community. We're right between 2 MARTA transit stations, Westlake and H.E. Holmes. And part of the selling point for any further development and current development to keep on our community transfers and grows and basically resets requires that we have MARTA service so that we can attract the right development. So that's very important that we have that MARTA service in our community. Yesterday, I saw a lady who was on her way to work, obviously one of our senior residents. The bus didn't come on time. She had to walk about a mile in 85-degree humid weather with her full work uniform on to the Westlake train station. And that happens all too often. If that bus route is eliminated, that will be the norm instead of the exception. I also like to add, since I'm up here, the Dixie Hills community, we are 3 miles to the west of downtown where we're currently standing, and we still have unpaved roads, which includes Wilson Avenue, among others. It still should not be this way. Often these roads that are unpaved, when it rains, it washes away the gravel. When it washes away the gravel, there are tremendous potholes left, so it becomes a safety concern as far as emergency services. Our neighborhood has a lot of elderly and senior residents. That's an issue. So please, look into getting those roads paved and upkeep in a better manner. Because those roads right now is untenable. So the roads and MARTA, the roads and MARTA, the roads and MARTA. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next on the list is Ms. Joanne Scott.
Good morning.
Morning.
The MARTA transportation is essential and is necessary in our community, in our Dixie Hill community. We have people that use it to go to church, work, grocery store. Our seniors, those that no longer drive, use it to go pay their bills, etc. And the doctor's appointments are just getting out of the house. If this transportation is eliminated, our residents will have to walk a mile to MLK or the bus depot. Hold on. Those that are in wheelchairs, what would they do? I would like to suggest a solution to our dilemma: to cut the route in half, eliminate the route to Peyton, not throwing Peyton under the bus, but if you take a survey of the ratio of people that ride in Peyton is little or none, and those that in Dixie Hill we have more people riding on our end of the route. please consider this suggestion in your letter to the MATA board. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, I believe this is David Mitchell. It is David Mitchell.
It is. Council members, how are you? It's nice to see everyone. I just wanted to discuss 25-0-1340, aka the Sky Bridge. The state of Georgia has evaded having over a year of conversation with me and multiple individuals to discuss this in any way, shape, form, or fashion, and has now come to the city of Atlanta seeking permission in order to have this thing, and I'm going to read the legislation, to grant temporary, permanent, and perpetual easement for something to exist over MLK from now and eternity. This has not been discussed, and while this is being argued in some way or another that this process, your approval will allow them to move forward to have the GMA conversations, every one of us has been in a room before where someone has said this is what we're going to do, and you don't have any opportunity to discuss it, and you're just going to eat it and take it. And this is the city of Atlanta. This is our property. This is my mission as the executive director of Atlanta Preservation, to protect and defend the assets that we have. The Capitol building is one of the most significant structures in this city and in the state that represents who and what we are, where civics takes place, similar to the traditional component over here of our original building here of City Hall. These things are protected. These things exist for a reason, and they stand as symbols to let people know there's a place where they can go and be heard, to be seen, and be recognized. And if you allow a Sky Bridge, not a pedestrian parkway, a pedestrian walkway is on the ground, not in the sky. So to do this, to allow them to have this in perpetuity, basically diminishes Atlanta's autonomy, it diminishes what Atlanta stands for, and it allows the state to come in and basically say they can do whatever they want. It is offensive. Also, if anyone wants to argue the state doesn't need permission, then why are we here? Why are we discussing it? Why are they asking for some sort of permission to be able to do this? If they could just do it by eminent domain, they wouldn't come to you at all. So there's a complexity here that has been circumnavigated, and it needs to be explored. I beseech you to either best table this or allow this opportunity for the public at large to have some sort of conversation about this. I would also add that generally, if you're going to have a conversation, you don't have an auger, which is digging holes, pouring concrete before you even have anything, which would give you the opportunity to already look to see the Sky Bridge is being created. I beseech you to allow the people of Atlanta to have some sort of conversation about what's going to affect the MLK corridor forever. Also, on the other side of the Capitol, you will look that they're able to walk back and forth with umbrellas or other things. They closed that down. The city of Atlanta worked that out. There's no, if you will, creature leaving the Capitol, going to the other side of the building, the Coverdale building. So I don't see any reason why we can't have a larger conversation, a larger discourse, and in some way or another enacting something that will be in perpetual care and be in permanent aspect that we can have, so we can all agree upon, rather than just being told by the state what we're going to do. We're Atlanta. We should represent Atlanta, and we should make sure that Atlanta's voice is heard by the citizens who live here and the taxpayers who pay for these things. Thank you. A.K.B. Brother Juan. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thanks, sir. Our last speaker will be Miss Jennifer Brooks.
Good morning, council members, and thank you for your attention and your good works. I'd like to address 25-0-1366, which is the extending the permits of the micromobility devices month to month until next April. I'd really respectfully like to ask for a moratorium on deployment of this equipment until such time as the vendors come up with a way to effectively manage their equipment in ways that respect the public right-of-way, the other users of the right-of-way, and their operation agreements with the city. I would also like to ask if you would please make public the accident data regarding the micromobility devices, the injury data, and the crime data, because I can't find that anywhere online, and I believe that should be available to the public. I would also ask that for this particular item that you allow for public engagement and meaningful public engagement, because this is a business plan that has unfettered access to the public right-of-way, and I think it's unfair to pedestrians to have them still on the public right-of-way on the sidewalks. I would like you to compel the vendors to come up with the ways to enforce, because we can't, and for the last 7 years have been unable to get them to comply with their permit requirements. And I think now is the perfect time to have a moratorium on deployment until the vendors take responsibility for compliance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. That is our last speaker. Just a quick recap. I did connect the citizens of Dixie Hill with the MARTA rep, so that process has started. Mr. Mitchell, we hear you. And then Ms. Brooks, 25-0-1366 is first read, correct? So we have your questions. Those who have the ability to give the committee those answers, if we can get them before it comes back in front of us, that'll be greatly appreciative. With that being said, that closes our public comment, takes us to our presentations. We have a presentation from Atlanta Regional Commission, the ARC quarterly update. As usual, it is in writing. So that takes us to our consent agenda. G, first reads. Mr. Overton.
This brings us to ordinances for first reading. This is item number 1, 25-0-1365, an ordinance by Transportation Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to create and establish a Council District Sidewalk Waiver Capital Finance Fund and to authorize the Council District Sidewalk Waiver Fund project to receive revenue collected from sidewalk waiver fees for each of the 12 city council districts on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation and for other purposes. Item number 2 is 25-0-1366, an ordinance by Transportation Committee to waive Section 150-401D, Article 10, Traffic and Vehicles of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances to authorize the Commissioner of the Atlanta Department of Transportation to extend existing shareable dockless mobility device annual permits on a month-to-month basis for 9 months with a shareable dockless mobility device operator beginning July 1st, 2025 and ending on April 1st, 2026, and for other purposes. And item number 3, 25-0-1367, an ordinance by Transportation Committee to amend Chapter 22, Article 3, Division 1 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Atlanta, Georgia, to repeal Section 22-70, Airside Operating Permit, AOP, at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, and for other purposes. Mr. Chair, that brings us to our regular agenda, starting with ordinances for second reading. This is item number 4, 25-0-1322, an ordinance by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute the Fifth Amendment to the Project Manager Agreement with Midtown Business Association Incorporated, doing business as Midtown Alliance, for US 19-Spring Street Pedestrian Project to execute any required agreements for the project participation and implementation on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation, and an amount not to exceed $1,800,000.00. All contractor work to be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed herein, and for other purposes.
Motion to approve. Second. Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable. Brings us to item number 5, 25-0-1323, an ordinance by Transportation Committee on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation to correct ordinance 24-0-1333, adopted by Atlanta City Council on July 1st, 2024, and approved per city charter, section 2-403, on July 10th, 2024, by removing the incorrect funding source and replacing it with the correct funding source. All other parts of the legislation to remain unchanged and for other purposes.
Second. Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. Vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable. This brings us to item number 6, 25-0-1324, an ordinance by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor on behalf of the City of Atlanta to execute all documents necessary for the acquisition of certain property interests necessary for the Cleveland Avenue Sidewalk Installation Project, authorizing negotiations with property owners for the acquisition of such property interests, authorizing title searches, appraisals, surveys, and any other items necessary for the acquisition of such property interest, authorizing the mayor and the city attorney in the event negotiations are unsuccessful unsuccessful, to institute condemnation proceedings pursuant to the declaration of takings method of the official code of Georgia annotated, section 32-3-1 et sequitur, waiving certain provisions of Article 10 Real Estate and Procurement Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, all contracted work and payments for property interest to be paid from the account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. Mr. Chair, there is a request to file this item. This is a duplicate item.
Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The item is filed. This brings us to item number 7, 25-01325, an ordinance by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor on behalf of the City of Atlanta to execute all documents necessary for the acquisition of certain property interests necessary for the pedestrian hybrid beacons at 5 locations project, authorizing negotiations with property owners for the acquisition of such property interest, authorizing title searches, appraisals, surveys, and any other items necessary for the acquisition of such property interest, authorizing the mayor and the city attorney, in the event negotiations are unsuccessful, to institute condemnation proceedings pursuant to the declaration of takings method from the official code of Georgia annotated, section 32-3-1 et sequitur, waiving certain provisions of Article 10 Real Estate and Procurement Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, all contracted work and payments for property interest to be paid from account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Second. Motion has been made and second. We have a conversation right before council members speak. Just want to recognize we've been joined by Vice Chair, Councilwoman Overstreet. Councilmember Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am 1,000% in support of this legislation. Just had a question for the department on the timing of the implementation of the PHBs. I believe 2 of these are in my district, and just want to be able to relay to our community members when we can expect installation.
Good morning. This is Chris Rome, Office of Engineering. I believe the construction is scheduled to begin summer of '26.
Thank you.
I think there's a motion on the floor that has been made and second. Please open the vote.
Can we repeat the motion or the seconder, please?
I made the motion and second. Okay, yep, second one.
Sounds good. Okay, vote is open. Vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable. This brings us to item number 8, 25-01330, an ordinance by council members Antonio Lewis, Michael Julian Bond, Matt Westmoreland, Marcy Cauley Overstreet, and Eshe Collins, authorizing the mayor on behalf of the City of Atlanta to execute all documents necessary for the acquisition of certain property interests necessary for the Cleveland Avenue Safe Street project, authorizing negotiations with property owners for the acquisition of such property interest, authorizing title searches, appraisals, surveys, and any other items necessary for the acquisition of such property interest, authorizing the mayor and the city attorney, in the event negotiations are unsuccessful, to institute condemnation proceedings pursuant to the declaration of takings method, official code of Georgia annotated, section 32-3-1 et sequitur, waiving certain provisions of Article 10 Real Estate and Procurement Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances. All contracted work and payments for property interest shall be charged to and paid from the account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Motion to approve. Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable. This is item number 9, 25-01340. Mr. Chair, we have a request to amend this item. The amendment would attach Exhibit A, map of the property.
Second. Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. The amended item is before the body. So this is item number 9, 25-01340, an ordinance by Councilmember Michael Julian Bond, as amended by the Transportation Committee, authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to grant temporary, permanent, and perpetual easements under, upon, above, and across a portion of the right-of-way of Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard Drive Southwest, consisting of approximately 1,865 square feet for the construction, repair, replacement, maintenance, and operation of an aerial pedestrian bridge with a top bridge elevation of 1,198.82 feet and bottom bridge elevation of 1,076.67 feet to the Georgia Building Authority, a body of corporate and politic and instrumentality of the state of Georgia and a public cooperation created and existing under laws of the state of Georgia, and waiving any conflicting provisions of Article 10, Division 14, subsection 3 of the Atlanta City Code of Ordinances and for other purposes.
Is there anyone from the correct department that can speak to this? I know we had public comment on it.
Good morning. Cheryl Glenn Snooks, Director of Real Estate for the Department of Enterprise Assets Management. The purpose of this legislation is to grant an easement, permanent and temporary, for aerial bridge across MLK Junior Drive. It will allow for safer crossing of pedestrians from the state legislative building that's being built and the existing state building, office building. It would also help with the traffic traveling back and forth.
Okay, Councilmember Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm going to start off with just a comment before I ask my question. So I know we heard the public comment earlier about Atlanta Preservation Center. I'm in agreement with that organization and their concerns about this project from a historic preservation standpoint, but I'm also concerned about the project just from a urbanism standpoint, from a downtown revitalization standpoint. We've been investing a lot of taxpayer dollars and working with our private partners at SODO and Centennial Yards and Central Atlanta Progress to make sure we can bring people back to downtown in a way that's going to revitalize downtown, bring life back to this part of our city that's been neglected for far too long. I'm a big believer that these sorts of pedestrian bridges, or as I like to call them, hamster tubes, don't do much or do anything to get people on the street and patronizing businesses, because they're able to go from building to building without really interacting with the street in a way that brings the vibrancy that we're looking for. We see a lot of that over at America Smart and at Peachtree Center when we see, there might be thousands of people in our downtown community, but they're not interacting with the street or spending money in our business or interacting in ways that that we want to see happen. And so I have a lot of concerns about this project from that standpoint. My question is, recognizing this is the state building authority, this is state property, recognizing that the city of Atlanta is a creature of the state, why does the power in our hands to approve or disapprove of this particular project? I will say for the record, I'm opposed to this. This is in my district, and so I will be voting against this project. But I'm just curious, from a legal standpoint, how did this come to be to where have they ability to vote on this?
Because they need authorization to construct the bridge using footings that will be placed on our right-of-way, public right-of-way.
Okay.
And we own the right-of-way along MLK. So they're going from one side of MLK to the other side. They're crossing over our right-of-way, and they also need air rights. And so we own the air rights for this.
Okay.
So they would have to come to us for those air rights.
Got it. And so just my last comment before I yield the floor. Now, this is the latest in a series of decisions that the state has made that have been antagonistic towards this idea of these properties being open to the people. When we see the fence that they put up around the state capitol, when we see the street abandonment that took place on Mitchell Street that has been closed off and no longer accessible to the public. This is a city street that we've abandoned to them. And now we have this pedestrian bridge that will have, whether it's state legislators or staff members not willing to be seen or be heard or be connected to the larger community that surrounds the building. I just have deep concerns that we're continuing to move towards a path that makes our state government less accessible to the people of Atlanta and to the people of our community that needs to have access to the these folks making decisions at the Gold Dome. So with that, I'll yield the floor, but thank you for answering my question.
Thanks, sir. Next speaker, Councilmember Faroki.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have a question, I just have my own comment. When I first ran for public office in 2009 for city council, on my walk card was a saying that said that I strive to make our street life match our skyline. You drive in from the city or into the city, you see a pretty remarkable skyline, but when you get out of the taxi or you hop off the MARTA train, the vibrancy of life at the street level is hit or miss. And downtown, especially the part of downtown that I represent, has long suffered from a paucity of street life because of decisions that were made in the 60s and 70s to allow for elevated pedestrian walkways across much of downtown's commercial district. We've been trying to unwind that for a number of years now, and I just generally think that barring some exceptional reason, which I don't see here, there was one we did in Midtown for Emory's Cancer Center to transport patients across the street, which is understandable. You don't want to wheel patients across a street level intersection. But barring an exception like that, it's just bad public policy to be granting approval for elevated pedestrian walkways. Our friends from Dalton and Thomasville and Macon and Swainsboro, et cetera, we welcome them on our streets. And as you spend time during the legislative session at the Capitol, the State Buildings Complex, downtown Atlanta and the area around the state capitol will be made better by folks walking around the footprint. And for that reason, I will be voting against this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. That takes us to the end of our speakers list. Is there a motion to be made? I motion to hold.
Second.
Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed. For 5 yeas, 0 nays. The item is held in committee.
Thank you. Next item.
Brings us to item number 10, 25-01345, an ordinance by Councilmember Byron D. Amos authorizing the mayor or his designee to waive the competitive procurement source selection provisions contained in Section 2-1187 of Code 10, Procurement of Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, as well as any other conflicting code provisions, to execute Amendment Number 1, to add funds to cover services rendered in fiscal year 2025, increase funds for fiscal year 2026, and correct the renewal options for special procurement number listed herein for airfield markings and rubber removal on-call contractor services with Highlight CBI joint venture on behalf of the Department of Aviation, an amount not to exceed $33,000,000 and for other purposes.
I have a couple of questions about this one. So I think it's Mr. Smith that'll be speaking. Just want to be clear. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, sir. Jordan Biegler, Assistant General Manager, Operations, Regulatory Compliance, Department of Aviation.
Thank you. So what we'll be doing is correcting the 1 2-year terms to 2. What is the correct extension of the terms that we'll be correcting with this paper?
Chris Jackman, Assistant General Manager, Facility Maintenance. We will be correcting the 1 2-year term to 2 1-year terms.
Okay. And then we will be adding another 18 million to finish out work for fiscal 25, and then another 33 million for fiscal 26.
No, sir. So what we're asking is additional 18 to take it to a total of 32 million. So we're asking for 14 million for fiscal 26, and then 1 million to finish out fiscal 25.
Okay, a lot better, a lot better. have received, as you already know, countless hours of public comment about the machine that is used to do this work. It was alleged that we have two. Nobody's trained on it. It's not working. Clear that up for me, please.
Yes, sir. That is not correct information. We have those machines. They're working. We have trained at least 10 trained individuals. It is just the amount of rubber on the 3 arrival runways that we're not able to keep up. Even with those trained individuals, they're also performing other tasks on the airfield on a nightly basis. So just the manpower and the complexity of Hartsfield-Jackson, we're just not able to keep up with removing the rubber.
Okay. Any more questions, comments? Is there a motion? Okay. We still doing some research. Hold on.
I move the approval.
There's a motion that has been made. Is there a second?
I do have a question, if I may.
Okay, we got one. So hold your motion. We got one other question.
No, I found the answer. It's in section 1. Sorry. Thank you.
Okay. I'll second that motion. So a motion has been made and second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, please open the vote.
Vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable.
Next item.
Brings us to item number 11, 25-01346, an ordinance by Councilmember Antonio Lewis authorizing the mayor on behalf of the city of Atlanta to execute all documents necessary for the acquisition of certain property interests necessary for the Cleveland Avenue Sidewalk Installation Project, authorizing negotiations with property owners for the acquisition of such property interest, authorizing title searches, appraisals, surveys, and any other items necessary for the acquisition of such property interests, authorizing the mayor and the city attorney, in the event negotiations are unsuccessful, to institute condemnation proceedings pursuant to the declaration of taking method from the Official Code of Georgia annotated section 32-3-1 et sequitur, waiving certain provisions of Article 10 Real Estate and Procurement Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, all contractor work and payments for property interests to be paid from account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Motion to approve. Motion has been made and second. As we open the vote, we've been joined by the person who seconded the motion, Councilmember Lewis.
Vote is open. Vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable. Mr. Chair, that brings us to our resolutions, starting with item number 12, 25R3587, a resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute renewal options for a contract number listed herein for on-call construction management services, at-risk services with an RFP number listed herein, New South Synergy joint venture, another RFP number listed herein, ATL Builders, a joint ventures, another RFP number listed herein, McCarthy and SG, a joint venture, and a final RFP number listed herein, TUJV, on behalf of the Department of Aviation at Hartsfield-Jackson and Atlanta International Airport for a term of 2 years each, effective December 24th, 2025 through December 23, 2027, on a task order basis and for other purposes.
Second. Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable. Brings us to item number 13, 25R3588, a resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to exercise the renewal option for a contract number listed herein, managing general contractor services with an RFP listed herein, SoCo-Catamount Joint Venture, LLC, and another RFP number listed herein, Swinnerton and Webmeyers, a joint venture on behalf of the Department of Aviation and Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport for a term of 2 years, effective December 13th, 2025 through December 12th, 2027, on a task order basis and for other purposes.
Second. Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable. This brings us to item number 14. This is 25R3551. Mr. Chair, there is a request to substitute this item. The substitute makes revisions throughout the caption and the legislation.
Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The substitute is before the body. So this is item number 14, 25R3551, a resolution by council members Antonio Lewis, Michael Julian Bond, Matt Westmoreland, Marcy Colley Overstreet, and S.J. Collins, as substituted by Transportation Committee, requesting the Commissioner of the Atlanta Department of Transportation to conduct a traffic study in the Pekerson neighborhood along Springdale Road Southwest between Cleveland Avenue Southwest and State Road 166, Langford Parkway, to determine the need for any safety improvements such as traffic calming devices, reduced speed signs, or stop signs, and for other purposes.
Second, motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
Yeah. Vote is open. Vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable. Mr. Chair, I do not believe there's any papers coming off of held today. And if that's the case, that concludes our legislative agenda.
Well, as you said, that concludes the agenda. Any comments, questions, concerns? Noted, we finish at 10:37. We are adjourned.